Well, it is our pleasure to, in this moment, welcome Reverend Therese Lee from Unity of Hilton Head. She's been in a number of other spiritual communities. She's been an ordained minister for 11 years, and she has been here with us since Friday, inviting and allowing to emerge the wisdom from our spiritual community. Thank you so much, Reverend Therese.
Having me. So you probably already know this about your leader. One of your leaders is that she's pretty sure of who she is and what God has called her to do, because not many ministers allow me to come in and have my way, God's way, with them without really her supervision. And that's what we did on Friday night. Anyone who was here Friday night or Saturday, please stand.
Thank you.
Woo! Okay. Thank you all. And if they listened, because I was being the boss of them, they would be wearing their card. And the card that Mindy said, here's who I've come here to be, an audaciously dedicated, loving friend. And I know that to be true about myself. And I want to say hello to two friends of mine from Melbourne, Susan and Hi, and their puppy dog, who knew my husband before I knew him, who saw us fall in love and have supported me through his adventure of getting angel wings and all those other things that we didn't plan for, right? So it also helps that we're both redheads. You know, there's just something about us when we can see it, because there's not many of us that are natural. Just saying. So this is what we talked about, how magnificent you are, how wonderful you are, and how do you stay being that while you continue to set up all the systems and procedures that you need as you continue to grow. Because there is a B side of church, and that's called business. And that's what we addressed this weekend, and we'll get a little bit more into that later on. One of the things that the Fillmores always like to do was to start with affirmations like you did earlier. And so the one that I start with is, if it is to be, it is up to me. 10 little words that make a big difference. And we teach them usually to kids in grammar school, or, you know, at CCD is where I learned them as a little Catholic girl. And so, if it is to be, it is up to me. Please say that with me. If it is to be, it is up to me. And that's what unity is all about. You can't blame anybody. You can't make anybody wrong with you, have other-itis. Ever heard of that? Like, so what's wrong with me is them, right? And so we don't get to do that. We get to look within, figure out what's ours to do, and go forward from that. And what grateful, grateful hearts this community has, and the board, and all the people we spent with on Friday and Saturday. That, in these statements, we don't say, hey, everybody, we're grateful, but that's the underlying formation and foundation from which these statements were written that we'll share with you about in a little bit. Scripture for today is from Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so you may discern the will of God. Because no one here is the boss of you. You are the boss of you. And so how is it that you discern your will versus God's will versus what somebody else, their opinion might be of you? Because anybody's opinion of you is not your business, it's theirs. And that's a great thing to learn, and we learned that in Unity. This year I'm celebrating 30 years in Unity. So grateful. I started when I was 12. I was 30, almost 30, and started it then. And so what we know is, if it is to be is up to me, means we start from the inside and move out to live. And one of my favorite coaches, her favorite saying is, we go within or we go without. So you go in so that you have peace and calm. Or you may go out without peace and calm. Or you may go out to drinking, drugging, whatever, all those other things that we do when we don't want to be vulnerable and real. And that's what's so great about Unity. Come as you are and transform at your rate. Because we'll all be having cosmic transitions happening, or what I call our holy shifts. To be careful how you hear that. To be careful how you hear that. And part of that is, how do you do your self-talk? So I think the two most important words, and I think you guys would agree, is I am. I am. intention, attention equals manifestation. That's what we did on Friday and Saturday, was listen to what the intentions were. And where do we need to draw our attention as a community so that we can manifest? I am. You'll never look at those words again and think that you are not powerful, because you are. You also get to use those words as a guidance of how it is that you have your self-talk. I am tired. Well, no, that's not true. Can't be true about you, because you're a spiritual being. You could need more sleep. But I am, and everything that comes after it, dictates to your consciousness and your subconsciousness how you're going to live. So change up your words. As Peg said, listen up, right? Listen to what we're saying. There's a whole song on that, right? Our thoughts, our prayers. Listen to what you're saying. And so that's what we get to do with ourselves every day, to be the boss of ourselves. So one of the great things I think that's so fun is I go around the country doing this business side of church as well as anything else that anyone will pay me for. I don't sing and dance, not after that. I'm done with that. But success only comes before work in the dictionary. And God comes before both. So how are you centered? I love that all the words that you use on your screen and in your affirmations have God repeated over and over and over. Where is God? So Dorothy Pearson was one of my mentors, and she said to me, Therese, Dorothy's now with God and is probably would be, if she was physically here, about 102. Feisty redhead as well, like Myrtle was. It just happens in the lineage of women in Unity. But what she would say to me, Therese, if they don't get it, you say to them, hello, God? Tell them to pull their shirts open and look at their soul, which is manifest in their chest where their heart is, and say, hello, God. Because that's how close God is, as always as close as our breath. I said, I don't know, Dorothy. She said, oh, come on. You're as feisty as I am. So I've been doing it ever since. So remember, what we get to do is be real and authentic. That's why all voices get to be heard here. That's what a mission-driven congregation is about. However, you don't all get your ways. All right? Everybody go like this. And it's not that Mindy's the end-all, be-all boss of you. However, everything does end up on her because she is the spiritual leader here, as well as your board. But all voices being heard. Is it what's best for the community when you decide to have a program, like an auction and or the variety show? Yes. What's it going to do? Create community. That's going to fulfill your mission statement, and hopefully it's also going to be a fundraiser. But the intention is not to raise funds, the intention is to create community. Big difference, yes?
Yes.
And you're going to sell many more tickets that way, because you're just going to be so excited about yourselves, and oh, it's fabulous. But we live in this world, and don't you get confused? I get confused sometimes because you hear, be all that you can be, and then you hear, just do it. And then you walk through these doors and you hear, peace. Be still. Could go a little cray-cray. Yeah? Which voice are you listening to? How are you preparing the voice inside so that the outside voices don't take over when that fastball is, pitched at you? Because they come sometimes unexpectedly. My husband passed away on a Sunday night after doing church, after just getting a clean bill of health 4 days earlier. Color me surprised, right? And a whole bunch of cray-cray after that, which my friends have witnessed the growth of. So how do you stand then when your whole world is taken from you, at least in my dramatic mind, right? Well, you stand on principle. You know the principles. We learned them this weekend again, didn't we? Everybody who knows them. God is, I am, I create through my thinking, I pray, and I live. So I thought, oh, all right, because Tom was also a Unity minister, my husband. You just want me to really know these things, don't you? All right, I'm going to learn them, I'm going to be it, I'm going to be the best minister I've ever been in the whole wide world, because that's what he thought I could be. He thought I was going to be the greatest and the best. So here I am. Right? So we get to do this for each other. I called and spoke with somebody every day at Silent Unity because I didn't know how I was going to breathe. Do that. Call here talk with a prayer chaplain, call Silent Unity, 1-800-NOW-PRAY, or get yourself a You Pray app, send them a text is my thing. My hair's probably in my, yeah, that's what happens. It's hard to be so beautiful. So call Silent Unity. Figure out who's going to help you. Have an agreement with others to say, when I'm not on my card, would you help me? So here's what I want you to do. Turn to somebody next to you and say, I am here to wake you up. Now turn to somebody else.
I am here to make you. I am here to
You cannot be unhappy and grateful. Heart math has proven that scientifically. So when you get to gratitude for whatever it is, maybe you're just breathing without oxygen, which is a big deal some days, yes? So just get to gratitude. And when you forget, say to somebody, can you help me wake up? Please, I can't get out of my own way. That's what this community is for. And what I also know is that it takes only a little group of people with the right mind action to make changes. You've already started doing that here. And what we know we have witnessed in the world that you can think of that's just as big, we have witnessed the Berlin Wall coming down in our lifetime, yes?
Yes.
Who would have thought it? Guess what? We did, didn't we? We thought about it, we made it make, and even though we're over here, no matter what or where anybody is in the world, you know in a minute you can understand and hear and see what's happening, yes? Thanks to the internet, right? And so the calls that Unity gets every day, 4,000 phone calls, text, and emails, and You Pray app for prayer. Those are the ones we know about. That's just Unity. So everybody is in a need of being woken up. It's not you imposing your will on them, but like, hey, want to come for some really good music and really good food on Sunday morning? Come to church with me, or come to this place with me. And then they're going to be inspired by something. Lives are the greatest advertisement and demonstration of the work and the will of this church. Advertising helps, tweeting helps, Facebook helps, but it's your life when you go out and demonstrate just by standing up straight some days that this is what the will of God looks like. So as we did our work, we wanted to also, of course, because this is what we do, we want to know how are we going to do all of these things. So the greatest intention, I'm going to speak it out loud with no permission from the board or from Reverend Mindy, is your vision and your manifestation is going to be for an associate minister, assistant minister, I don't even know whatever they call us these days, because this woman cannot do everything. So that's the next step in your generation of manifestation, and I invite you to see that. Thomas Merton says, it's about deep consent, saying yes, and leaving the details to God. Because how are you going to do it? Well, you're going to have to up your tithing. You can up your consciousness too. Be careful how you hear that. Up your consciousness or up your consciousness. Depends on which syllable you put the emphasis. Right? So we talked about this, practical Christianity. It's about practicing it, but it's also about being practical and real. Some days you can't get there and you got to call your friend. Some days you have the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Whatever it is, you have the greatest thing happening because you're a Unity student. And I have to admit, I've been getting over my coveting of your building. Because in Hilton Head, we rent. It's a beautiful space that we rent. But we get to go in at 8 and we get to leave at noon, and then what do? Well, you guys could be here all day, every day. So I'm coveting. I'm just saying, I'll do my confessions later as I'm driving home. So there's a way of looking at what manifestation looks like based on our consciousness. So there's 3 people. And the one, he's just kind of mixing mortar and building a little brick wall. And this woman goes over and goes, hey, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm just building a little brick wall. And then she went over to this other guy and she said, hey, well, what are you doing? As he's mixing his mortar, I act like I know what I'm doing, mixing his mortar and laying the bricks. And he says, oh, well, I'm building a wall. And she went over here and she said, so, and what are you doing? He said, I am building a church to the glory of God. They're all doing the same work. It's all about our intention, isn't it? And that's what we did this weekend. We are building a great spiritual community, greater than it already is, to the glory of God. And that means to the glory of each of you, because that's where God resides. So that's what you get to remember, because why? If it is to be, it is up to me. So now I want to tell you what we did this weekend on your behalf. And don't be jealous that you don't have your own card, because I'll leave the red string behind just as a reminder, and you can have somebody ask you, you can ask them, hey, how do I do this? How do I get, how can I know how I can be on my card? So what we did, first of all, I want to read this to you because I think it's really important to understand what I think you already know. Sometimes it's kind of like preaching to the choir, right? So people are energized and inspired by possibilities for a better world. Yes? Would it be okay to have a better world? Even in your own home, because that's where it starts. Even in your own mind is where it first starts. Their individual purpose, principles, and values are aligned with the mission of their spiritual community. That's why we're doing this work, to create coherency. When volunteer work is in service to a spiritual community and also to a larger purpose, which could be Wilmington, it could be the state of North Carolina, it could be Unity Worldwide Ministries, whatever it all is, we know that it is life-giving and compelling. Why? Because it changes you, just like prayer. People wanted to contribute. It's absolutely true, we know this. They get great satisfaction from knowing that their contributions in terms of their own time, treasure, and talent are positive forces in the world. I'm going to also tell you that if you want your life to change like you've never had it change before, start tithing a full 10% to where you're spiritually fed. I quit corporate America when I was 39, so 20 years ago, and I've been living on God Air ever since. I come here on a love offering to do this work so that every church I can get into will say, hey, we know who we've come here to be and why we're here and what our purpose is. And that's why you continue to manifest and grow. So we're going to go through this rather exponentially. Consciousness, changing here. It hasn't been here since Mindy's been here, but it used to be Pastor Flock. I'm in charge, that's why you're going to do things. You know, remember when your mom used to say that? She pulled a mom card like, I'm the mom, you're like, ugh. Right? So we don't do that here. That's not what it's about. So it's about having intention of leading and developing leaders, as opposed to telling you what to do, because that gets real old real quick, doesn't it? Culture, from being ministers in charge and gets your own way for everything, to what's being called forth by the community. What is the mission saying that we want to do? Because it identifies who you are as a spiritual community. Relationships, also known as community, which creates the social dynamics, right? So I just had someone else say, chicken salad, thank you so much for feeding me. And you go from belonging to owning, and people go, well, wait, what does that mean? So you're a member of the church, well, what do you do? How would we know you're a member? Tithing, I hope, of time, treasure, and talent, right? And so we call you forth. We're going to keep asking you to do things, to be on all the teams that we need to do to fulfill all of this work. And you know what? If you say no, we're not going to ask you why. No is a complete sentence. And we'll ask you again. Be prepared. Right. So what we want to do is to have also know that Mindy's not your mother. She's not your grandmother, your aunt, your least favorite sister, or your favorite sister. She just is the minister, as are all the other leaders in the church. But family dynamics helps us sometimes, when we're not in the right consciousness, to project. And so we invite you to take your hurt to the person who hurt you, and then have conversations with the rest of us about how it is that you can proceed and go further. And then the business side of work, of this work that we're doing here, because there has to be systems and procedures in place as the growing continues. So one of the things you also have to figure out is, well, what if this, oh, you haven't told the surprise yet.
It's not a surprise.
Okay, so the Montessori school. How cool is that? You're going to have all these little minds that just believe in great and good, blessing this community. What if they want to stay longer than 11 months? How special would that be? And of course, the rent is always good, right? So that's what you get to figure out. How is everything a blessing? How is everything happening in your life for you? And one of my greatest spiritual teachers, Leilani Burt, who is also a brilliant prayer manifester, she said to me, Therese, the day you can call me and tell me that Tom's passing was your greatest blessing is when the world will shift in a way that you've never seen it before. And I said, are you? I think I used some other word. Kidding me? But I trust her, I love her, I know that this is true. How do I know it? Because my soul has something that it has to do without his soul in its space. Now, I'm 5 years out, so I can say that without crying. I wouldn't invite you any newbies to do that, but that's what I know to be true. How do I know? Because I'm here, and we're working together to manifest even greater things here. And that's what this is about. All voices heard, and not everybody gets their way. So this, right now, I'm going to invite our usher and usherettes to please pass out our forms. So what you're going to receive is this piece of paper, this big, so we can read it. Don't you hate it when you get one of those pieces of papers and you're like, well, so I wear trifocals, so I thought, let's make it in 60 points. No, I think it's actually 40. And so what we're going to see here as you get this is the question that we asked on Friday night. What is the biggest dream, wish, or vision that this community has for the world? Not how are we going to do it? Oh, well, could it be true? Because even if we wished for peace, there's not peace right now in Afghanistan or wherever else it is. It's not what we're looking at. We're doing it affirmatively, like the Fillmores taught us, to hold the biggest dream, wish, or vision, knowing that God can. And as we see it so, and as we see it as so, see it rightly, as Eric Butterworth would tell us, then it can be. As long as we don't get attached to the physicality of it and what we see with our own eyes. And then in the lower left-hand corner, our mission statement. Why on earth is Unity of Wilmington here, and what is uniquely ours to do? So that when you come forward and say, hey, I've got an idea, first of all, be the one who wants to fulfill the idea. Second of all, be aware that if it doesn't fulfill the mission statement, we're going to wait until it does, and we'll encourage you to create a different pathway to it so that it can fulfill the mission statement. Why on earth are you here? What is uniquely yours to do is what our mission statement is about. So everything will be coming back to that. All action plans, all intentions, all the money expenditures, everything. So what we're asking for you to do in the right-hand column, and we're going to have a song, and then we're going to have a meditation, and then Reverend Mindy's going to lead you through reading them, and then this time I think I'm going to invite you to read them out loud with them, all right? And so over here on the right side, you're going to say it's from 1 to a 10. 10 means, woohoo, great job everybody. 1 is, not so much, okay? I don't think there'll be many of those. However, there's always one. Choose not to be the one. So here, if it's anything less than a 10, I need to know why. We need to know why on the board. So if you put a 9 or an 8, you need to give us some words there as well. Otherwise, it goes into that circular file, because we can't do anything about it. If you also just say, blah, 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 on this, and don't put a number on it, it also goes in the circular file. All right, so we're going to be qualitative and quantitative for both of these, and Mindy will lead you, Reverend Mindy will lead you in that after our song and our meditation, and saying them with your outdoor playground voices. So one more, as Mindy gets in place, we have one more slide as we get a little bit of music. Trust the wait, that's the question I get. Well, when will this be done? Like when it's finished, right? So we don't know how long it will take because we have to develop the teams and which of you are going to be on which of the teams for the core value or for the long-term planning. We don't know that yet, right? So embrace the uncertainty. Think of the caterpillar sitting in the goo, not even knowing it was going to get those magnificent, beautiful wings, yes? So it's okay to sit in the goo. Enjoy the beauty of becoming. Look at you. Turn around and look at each other. Seriously. I am having envy again and again and again, over and over. When nothing is certain, anything, and what I would say, as the Fillmores would say, everything is possible. So thank you for your participation. Any questions afterwards, let me know.
Okay, but I have a question now.
Oh, sorry, Mindy. Oh,
Yeah, I have a question now. So can you just go back one slide? Because on the
I guess she's the boss of me.
on the form, it has a lowercase L for United in Love, and on here it has an uppercase L for love, and that's a big deal.
Are you a grammar, like, person?
Should I polish my badge?
Okay, so I did this, so I made a goof. It is love. When we talk about love, love is a sloppy word, yes? I love pizza, I love my country, and I love you. Okay, what do all those have in common? We're not sure, right? I love puppy dogs. So this is the correct one. So just on here, you can go ahead and make that L a big L for love, because that means it's of spirit. It's of greater, much greater good. And so I apologize, I'm human.
Well, I just want on the forms to
That's perfect. Thank you. See, this is what it looks like when you can have a disagreement and say, yeah, okay, whatever. It's all yours, honey.
We're gonna flow now. Flow, we're gonna flow. Let's sing about flowing through me. Taking a moment to close our eyes, to go within.